Hi, now we're going to talk about the 5 love languages. The 5 love languages is a concept that was invented by Dr. Gary Chapman, who first created this system by which he identified that every individual has their own love language, and there's one of 5. This is one of these personality type systems that seems to work very well for relationships, especially in marriages and in other long-term committed relationships. Basically, the idea is that everyone has their own love language, and that people who attract each other are not necessarily the same love language. And therefore, we often have this problem in relationships where one person is speaking one language and the other person doesn't understand it and they're speaking their own language. So it's a little bit like one person is speaking Italian and the other person is speaking Chinese, and then they wonder why they're not able to reach each other, right? And it makes a lot of sense if people are speaking 2 different languages. What makes it even harder, though, is that sometimes people, they both speak the same language. They both may speak English, for example, and so they may even come from very similar backgrounds, very similar cultures. So why is it that we can't seem to understand each other? What's going on here? What is the problem? So again, the idea here is that everyone has their own love language, and if you can identify what someone else's love language is, and you can identify what your love language is, then there's a chance for you to be able to really connect with them and to communicate and to give them what they need. It's sort of like, different cars take different types of gas, right? So some cars take unleaded and some cars take diesel. If you try and put diesel fuel into an unleaded car, you have a big problem, right? I actually don't know exactly what happens, but I know it's not good, and the engine won't run, right? And vice versa. If you try and put diesel fuel into an unleaded car, you'll have the same problem. So what the idea is here is that you need to, first of all, be aware of what your love language is. Realize that if you are unleaded or diesel, right, and realize that what you need. Now, you may have some idea of this. You may have a very clear idea, or just a vague notion of, but most of us know what, when something feels good, we know it, right? And what feels good to me does not necessarily feel good to somebody else. So first, I have to be able to really clarify what it is that makes me feel good, and then be able to identify what makes other people close to me feel good, right? Whether it's my wife, whether it's my mother, whether it's my kids, whether it's my friends or my associates. Being able to understand other people's love language makes me able to communicate with them in a way that makes them feel important and special and loved and appreciated. Um, Also, it's important to remember that whatever someone's love language is also the love language that they're likely to give to other people. In other words, the thing that makes them feel special or important or appreciated or loved is how they're going to try to communicate that. Again, if they speak unleaded, they're going to be trying to, if they want unleaded fuel, they're going to be offering unleaded fuel to everybody else, because to them that's what makes sense. That's logical, right? That's normal, right? And if they're someone who takes diesel, they're going to be trying to give diesel to the people around them. And if the people around them, again, if they don't run on diesel, they may feel, hey, what the heck, man? I'm giving you what I know feels good. Why do you not want this? Why are you rejecting it, right? Why does the other person still feel unloved or unappreciated? So let me tell you quickly what the 5 different love languages are, and I'll tell you a little bit about each one. Okay? So there are 5 love languages. The first one is touch. Now, touch is, I guess, maybe the most basic, or the most, I guess it's a love language that a lot of people would say, oh, well, if I'm touching you, it means I love you, right? So in other words, this is all different types of touch. This is hugs, this is kisses, this is holding hands. This includes sex as well. And it also means back rubs and foot rubs and cuddling on the couch and just being close to someone else. Someone whose love language is touch, if you touch them, right, in a way that shows affection, that feels to them like, oh, you love me. Oh, it feels so good, right? Now, this same person is also going to be trying to show his or her love for other people through touch, right? So that means put my arm around you, right? Sit real close to you, hold hands all the time. Let me give you a back rub or a neck rub or a foot massage or something like that, right? So that's the first love language of touch. Okay, and by the way, some people think that men, in general, this is their default love language, because men seem to want sex. Uh, it's not necessarily true that this is men's love language more than any other love language. Well, let's talk about some of the other ones, okay? So the first one was touch. Second one is words of affirmation. What does words of affirmation mean? It means telling someone how much you appreciate them, how much you value them, right? So someone whose love language is words of affirmation will often be telling the people in their lives, wow, thank you so much for everything you do. I really appreciate it. Or, you know, you're really so special to me. You do so much. I love how you make me feel, and I'm so lucky to have you in my life, right? Now, everyone likes it. It's important to remember that everyone likes all of the different things. Of the five love languages, everyone appreciates those things, right? Everyone likes being told how special they are, or being told, thank you, I really appreciate you. But for someone, if that's their love language, that really gets to them in a way that and affects them in a way that it might not other people. It really means like the whole world to them. If someone says that to them, it really touches their heart in a way that's very, very deep. It makes them feel like their tank is being filled. This person will also be telling the people around them, again, sharing those words of affirmation. And this is not just verbally, but also writing. So this person will often leave notes for other people, little love notes, or it's like, oh, I'm thinking of you. Just I love you. I'm I wish you were here. My oldest daughter, she loves to leave notes for my wife and I realized at a young age that this was one of her love languages. One of her most prominent love languages was words of affirmation. And just like she likes to tell us that even at a young age, she was leaving us little love notes, that when we say that to her, when we tell her how much we love her, or that we're thinking about her, or that we miss her, we want to be with her, that really makes her feel very loved as well. Okay, so far we had touch and we had words of affirmation. The third one is something called acts of service. Now, an act of service is basically something that you're doing for someone else, and for someone who that's their love language, they're doing these acts of service as a way of showing the other person that they love them, right? And vice versa, that if someone's doing them for me, it means that they love me, right? So I'm going to give you some example of acts of service. So acts of service are, for example, setting the table, cooking dinner, doing the laundry, washing the dishes, picking up things for you at the store, dropping things off at your office, all these kind of things, right? For someone who, if this is their primary love language, now again, let's say if I wash the dishes for my wife, right? For me, acts of service is not my love language, right? So if I'm washing the dishes for her, I'm trying to be a nice guy, right? But that's not my way of showing love. But for my wife, that's her primary love language. If I wash the dishes, she says, "Wow, you must really love me." And initially it was like, "No, I'm just trying to be nice." But now that I understand more about how the love languages work, I realize that whenever I do things like that, or doing laundry, or helping out around the house, even watching the kids for a while, these kind of things really, for my wife, tell her, yes, my husband really loves me, right? So those are things that I can do because that's my wife's love language. That's what I can do to show her, to fill her love tank, is by doing acts of service. Okay, so we had touch, we had words of affirmation, acts of service. Okay, the next one is quality time. Quality time is just hanging out, right? Or it can be just hanging out. It means really spending time where that person is paying attention. The other person, you're paying attention to the other person, giving that person your undivided attention. And for someone whose love language is quality time, that makes that person feel wanted. It makes them feel special. It makes them feel loved, right? So, in other words, if you're married to someone or one of your family members, that's their love language, quality time, then you want to make sure that when you're with them, you're giving them your undivided attention, right? So this means that when you're with them, make sure you're not on your phone talking to somebody else. You're not trying to do work at the same time. That's quality time. And the fifth one is gifts. And basically, the idea of gifts is, again, as I said before, everyone likes to get a gift, but for someone whose love language is gifts, they're going to attach much more importance, right? First of all, when they give gifts, they're really going to spend a lot of time trying to get gifts that the other person are going to like, that are going to really make the person feel good and feel loved and special. And also giving them a gift is something that they're going to attach a lot of importance to as well, right? Because just like gifts are important for them to give, when you give them a gift, it has to be a gift that is thoughtful and that's going to show that person that you really love them. So I really think this system is amazing. Since I discovered it myself, I've seen a big difference in how I relate to my family members and the people close to me. And I have recommended it to dozens or maybe even hundreds of clients. And the couples who have implemented this and the individuals who have started thinking in these terms have seen big improvements in their relationships. And I highly recommend picking up a copy of this book. It's called The Five Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman. And it is not an expensive book, and it's not very long. It's basically just a lot of stories about the different couples that he worked with in his practice and how teaching them about the love languages and them implementing, trying to speak the other person's love language has helped. And I highly recommend it, and you should pick it up.